welcome to ATL Falcons UK weekly show. We've got Paul, Cameron, Jake from America, and James on, and there's maybe one or two more coming on. We're speaking about the massive dub against the Saints and what a win it was, with a few heart attacks on the way. I think we can all admit that one. But what a win, and against our biggest rivals, I think it just makes you hate them even more. And silence in that stadium is, you could hear it watching it on TV. As soon as it's silence, it's got to be what a feeling. Good. So we'll start with Paul, just your takes on it, and then we'll just go around and pick individual topics after that.
Yeah, I mean, Mondays after a Saints win is just brilliant, isn't it? Really, that's all you can say. Just loving it. On a high still 24 hours later. I didn't think we were going to, I thought we were going to blow it in the end. And then I should have known that. I mean, Matty Ice would pull it out of the bag right at the end. He's done it a couple of times this year. He's just done it again. And I mean, Patterson's the GOAT. What more can you say to start with?
Absolutely unbelievable. You couldn't sort of rate it, could you? We've like dangled the carrot in front of him, saying, "Oh, you've got the win," and then boom, 30 seconds later, we're fucking ripped from them.
Yeah, it's a classic mistake. I actually thought once we had that massive lead, I thought actually this time I couldn't see the Saints coming back, and a classic mistake. But you know, a win's a win. That's all I want at the end of the day.
Definitely, Cameron.
That was just the usual from us, isn't it? Kind of offensive output was pretty good. I mean, Matt Ryan obviously had an unbelievable day again. But again, it's kind of the relying on him and not really any run game to support him. But we got the win in the end. And in typical fashion, like Paul and you guys have said, just kind of hanging on for dear life. But, you know, sometimes you need to do that and win ugly. So, good win overall.
Definitely. James?
I thought it was a good win, apart from Arthur Smith having his usual fourth quarter, let's go uber conservative and not do what we did in the first three quarters, which got us up and down the field reasonably quickly.
Definitely. Jake?
Yeah. I think Charles McDonald said it best. He said the Falcons still choked, but I guess they learned the Heimlich, and they came through with it at the end. And man, it was nice to just get some vintage Matt Ryan, and just needed it in the worst possible way. Cordero Patterson, awesome again. I agree, though. The play calling at the end it's not sustainable to keep winning games like that. Something's got to change with that.
Definitely. I think that's one of the main things sort of throughout the game. Some of the play calling was very hit and miss, especially in last quarter, but seeing it again against Washington, it was the same stuff. But I think that it's a massive sort of a mentality thing that even though we blew the 18-point lead, we went on to win, and that's what we've not seen in years, to be fair. And I think hopefully that's something we can take on. And I think Patterson said it. He don't want to be everyone's just having. You don't want to give everyone a heart attack every week, and that would be very great if that would happen. Because I think I took over the Twitter yesterday, and I fucking ripped the new one into the team instantly. But I don't regret anything I said because we ended up winning. So, but against our biggest rivals, it's one of the best feelings, isn't it? It can't really be, like Paul said, waking up Monday morning. Any win's great, but over them and the way we did it, it's just rubbing wounds in the sore. But yeah, Matt Ryan, we'll start with him. Holy shit! What a game! What a game he had. Anyone take anything from that?
I thought he was really, really consistent, and he actually, when he was out of the pocket, you didn't feel like he was going to lose yards. You thought he may gain a couple here, and then what he did to the linebacker was just made him look stupid. And I think he's like the second best graded running quarterback behind Dak this week. So he must be doing something right.
Yeah, well, look what happened to Dak's team this week as well. I mean, we got them coming up next. They're going to be on the back.
Yeah.
Matty Ryan, I mean, after last week's game against the Panthers, which was just a complete dud, it's good to see him back to how he should be, and we know he can be, really. Matt Wheels, he got it there.
Yeah, the Dan Quinn revenge game is gonna be it's gonna be an interesting one. There's gonna be a lot of guys on both sides of that really want to win that one.
Oh, definitely. It's going to be obviously a massive game. Thought another positive, obviously Matt Ryan balling out like he did, which is obviously, I think, is that his third winning drive this season? Which obviously, I can't remember what stat it was. I think he's 30 odd games he's done in his career, or 60 it was, or something like that. But just stats again, no interceptions, 137 rating, or 133. And I think like last week against the Panthers, he didn't have his best game, everyone knows that, but was it all on him? No. But the O-line this week, I've got to give credit to that. It was all pretty good. I think Mayfield was the lowest ranked one, but I think there was all over 63. I can't remember who put the PFF ratings out, but apart from the last quarter where obviously one of them drives in, Matt Ryan got sacked twice and lost about 20 yards. But apart from that, the first 3 quarters, I think they did the job well. Obviously, our run game throughout was very dodgy, but I think that's been the past few weeks. But apart from that, I think the O-line did all right.
No, like you said, it's the run game itself, it's just kind of been not non-existent, but it's not been effective in any way, which kind of makes us more one-dimensional. So it's a bit tougher to kind of fool defenses and stuff. But yeah, like especially against that. I mean, they're one of the, I think it's like top 5 run defenses in the league or whatever it is. I'm not too sure, but they are a good D in total. So it's a good way to win, especially when we are that kind of relying on that one way of winning it, and that's just passing it. So it's good to see that we can still do it against a defense like that.
I think the scary thing is Mike Davis was supposed to be the thumper who'd just knock out 3-4 yards consistently, and it just seems like week after week he's not getting over the game line, or he's being sort of caught behind it. And then the fumble was quite scary.
Why didn't they just kneel it straight away? As soon as he did that, I was just like, because you could even tell he was running, and he was just like, I don't even need to. Then he went down, and then obviously the ball came out, and I think Paul put it on the chat first, and I was just like, oh my God, it's happening. It's fucking happening.
Yeah, well, I think last season the Saints would have recovered that. That's the difference, I think. Just the slightest little thing. It's a fine line between a win and a loss. And, he fumbles that, we're all absolutely raging right now, let's be honest.
I don't think we'll be doing a show if that was happening.
No.
Everyone be hiding for sure.
But obviously, got the winning end. But like what James said, I don't think he has been hit and miss. But the O-line doesn't like, they don't open the gaps always. But then you see Patterson, and he sort of creates his sort of own gaps at times. But obviously, Patterson's just a goat, so it don't really matter. But I'm just getting on to Patterson is how the hell has no one in his career looked at him and thought he can I think. Can't remember if Jake's put it on Twitter, but his stats are the best nearly his best, and he's only 8 games in.
Yeah, and that's how he used to play at Tennessee in college. That's how they used him. He returned kicks, took handoffs, receiver, all that stuff, and then just in the NFL, I guess nobody ever bothered to try it until now.
It's especially like you've seen at that level as well. At any level, like get your best players the ball, get people that can make things happen, and get them on the ball. I mean, whether it's kick return, running the ball, or even out wide, like you've seen in the pretty much the play that sealed it for us. He can do pretty much everything. He's just like a Swiss Army knife for the offense. He can do it all, but it gives us that kind of edge as well, especially when he's on the pitch, when he's lined up as a running back. Teams don't know if it's going to be a pass or play action or whatever, because he can do it, gives that edge. Whereas, like, I think with Mike Davis, it's more predictable, where they're going to see, 28's on the field. It's more likely to be a run than a pass, or otherwise it's a play action game. But it's good that we have someone that can do that, especially when we are down quite a. I mean, let's be honest, our like wide receivers and stuff aren't star-studded at all. So, but we've got the llama that's been making plays. So,
I think.
Go on,
I was just going to say, I think with Patterson, especially when he's lined up out wide, you've got people like Pitts and potentially Hurst taking bits away from him. So Pitts is keeping other people occupied, which gives Patterson one-on-one opportunities. And I'd say, apart from probably the number one corners on most teams, I think he could probably beat 99% of corners and safeties out there.
well, that's what you've seen in the play that kind of sealed it as well. The Pitts was, I think it was like kind of a flood concept, and kind of Pitts draws in Malcolm Jenkins. I think it's a cover 2 that they were playing at that point. And so, like, Malcolm Jenkins should be covering out wide, but he's too occupied with Kyle Pitts, like, doing the crosser. So that kind of drags him down and means that Patterson can actually have a free go. And it's obviously there's no safety help over the top there. And then it's I think it's Marcus Williams or whatever that has to come across and make the tackle in the end. But it just shows you, like, having someone like Pitts, even though he's a rookie, he does draw that much attention just because he can make the plays. I mean, other than the first play of the game, then he draws so much attention. He's like that Julio kind of presence about him where you need to look out for him at all times.
That was kind of one of the things we said when Julio was traded. I was saying there's no replacing Julio Jones really, but you can replace the attention that he draws like that. And I think Pitts does a lot of that too, even in the red zone. Well, I mean, obviously Julio didn't have the red zone production. Right. Yeah, but he I like even though it didn't work, that first red zone play that they ran before OZ caught that low ball for the touchdown. They just threw it up to Pitts. He was double covered. He just threw it as high as he could. He's like, if he's not going to get it, nobody will. And I'm okay. I can live with that.
Yeah, it's just a shot that you take and hope for the best, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see. Obviously, Matt Ryan completely has trust in him, throwing it up to him. It's a good sign for the rest of the season.
It does feel with Pitts, like, I think Greg Olsen, one of the commentators in one of the first few games, was saying, like, give him a set few plays, and as long as he does them good, then expand the playbook for him. And I think they're doing that with him now.
Yeah, I think that's just the case with most rookies anyway. They kind of have the set plays that they'll be in for. I mean, you see it from the start of the season. The snap count starts going up as they get more and more comfortable with the playbook itself. So it's good to see that he has progressed into that role very quickly. But it's also, I mean, he's not getting as much production as possible. But then again, it allows other people to be open, and so you'd rather that than lose, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think Gage had to step up. I don't know what that jump was when he caught one of them balls. He tried hopping over someone, but he stepped up when he needed to. Obviously, Lamadé got 2 touchdowns in the end. So obviously, without Ridley being there, Pitts didn't have a quiet game, obviously, with that catch, but still had a decent game. But he sharp as well, comes out with a couple of yards, and obviously then Patterson sort of just takes control like usual. But no, it's obviously a positive game. We're getting all the wide receivers together, and they're all getting yardage. Obviously, you're obviously missing Ridley, which is a big point. Even though with his sort of slow starts of the season, he's still another vocal point that he will obviously hope he's all right. And when he does come back, if he comes back, we'll always find a way to fit him in. I think that's one of the things. But to get all these receivers getting yards is obviously a massive positive.
I mean, the other thing you got to note as well, obviously, there were very few drops compared to how many of the Saints dropped. And again, That's differences in the game.
Yeah.
If you keep hold of the ball, then you keep going. As simple as that.
One of them things is like the Saints fans will obviously be like, "Oh, you only beat us without number one quarterback or whatever. We had injuries, but we've got injuries. We've got injuries. Our roster's fucking. Some of it's not even got depth. I wouldn't even call it depth. And that point of you always targeted Harris, but why wouldn't you? You're not going to target AJ half the time because we know, fuck me, what a game he had. I know that one where he gave a touchdown away was very. I wouldn't say. Could you put it against him because he literally had two people to cover?
Yeah, he was covering two guys at once. Yeah.
What a player he's been, and consistently. Probably top three cornerbacks I think they're saying easily, but for us, what a player has been in. A lot of people's like, oh, they're not targeting, but he's still getting a lot of targets. And if they're not targeting, that's good. If we can get another cornerback in the next draft, in the first couple of rounds, that secondary could be, well, obviously with the safeties that. I think it did Hawkins. He had another high. Once again, I liked him from last year, to be fair, and he's came in and done another good job. Surprised he doesn't have more snaps still, but maybe they're sort of working him in with, obviously, the vets on the back.
I do think like the safeties are they are worrying, but I think Hawkins is a positive there because he's a bit of a ball hawk as well. I think like the 2 interceptions he's got have been really good.
Yeah, I like him going forward too. I mean, Grant hasn't been getting a lot of snaps, but Hawkins, I mean, he was an afterthought for me going into the year. I'm like, I guess he'll rotate in sometimes, and he's been the best one out of all of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one thing would be he could easily be sort of starting the game. He could easily be 100% snaps for me, but I don't know what. But he played a lot more nickel yesterday, didn't he? Sort of put him more into the centre, but he's being consistent, and that's obviously what we want, and that's what sort of our safeties ain't being very consistent at the moment. Obviously, we're joined by Willow.
Evening, gents. What are we talking about? Just sort of secondary, or just what have we already covered?
Covered the win.
Saints.
Eating the shit in.
Having good Mondays.
I mean,
just the secondary at the moment with AJ, the safeties, and then Hawkins, etc.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if you've already sort of said anything about him, but like Deron Harmon is kind of a non-factor for this defense, even though he's playing all the time, and it's really disappointing that he's sort of starting a lot over Richie Grant, who obviously, as Jake just pointed out, is kind of a non-factor at the moment. It would be nice to see him get more snaps, but I mean, at this point, we're winning games, so I guess they can't really change from that. But I assume that you have already slated Fabio Moreau, so I'm here to get his back. No. He's better than people think he is. You've got to lower your expectations a little bit. He's a good player.
He's solid for what we have, like the money we have available to spend on defenders. We don't have top tier money to go out and get a big name.
Well, that's it.
We've got to shop in bargain basement.
I think that's going to be the same again this coming off season as well. Unless we go out and get a cornerback sort of fairly early, I can't see a scenario where we're not either keeping him about or getting somebody of that kind of stature. But he's pretty okay. He's obviously gets beat quite a lot, and he gives up some pretty annoying penalties. But I think people are comparing him to Terrell, who's just exceptional at the moment. If you just lower your expectations a bit, everything's all right.
Yeah, that's
just going back to Richie Grant. I was just going to say, I think I read somewhere like it's the reason he's not playing is because he isn't getting the playbook or doesn't understand it. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I don't know. Dean Pease's defense is also very like it's like a dictionary. The playbook's probably this thick. I mean, it's pretty complex, so I can give him a pass on that. But if it's year 2, like the end of this year, starting next year, and he's still not starting, especially if they don't get a safety in free agency, then that would be pretty concerning to me.
Yes.
No contest.
I had to have this conversation. I had to explain to a grown man that just because one cornerback has one more interceptions than the other, that does not make him better. Like Trayvon Diggs got eaten alive yesterday by Tim Patrick. Of course, just about everybody on Dallas did, but
no, definitely. Moving on to Steve Means, we can bring his 100% quickness into it. Fuck me. If it was anyone else, I think they would have probably got the touchdown, but it was sort of like he was falling all the way. But another massive fight in the game that obviously turned the game. But who got the sack on that one? Was it
Vaughters?
Who obviously looked like he had a very good game.
He's the one that they just brought off the practice squad, isn't he? He literally came off the practice squad like Monday or something. So it's kind of like talk about an instant impact. And he's great. I mean, I don't have a PFF account, but from all the people I've seen, he graded out pretty well. So that must be good. So fair play to him. Try to inject some life into this pass defense, which just is not very good at the moment.
If we can get anything out of him, it would be a bonus, let's be honest.
Yeah.
On the, want to mention the penalty on 40. What do people think about that? Like,
it was bollocks. He didn't even need, if we're being honest, he didn't need to jump. But I think he was trying to block. The pass, and then went, shit, I'm jumping way too high, and I'm only going to hit him in the head.
It was a soft one, but it's the sort of one where it's like they're going to give it 10 times out of 10. So it's just don't kind of put yourself in that position. I understand why he jumped, and I understand why he ultimately his hand had to come down. But it sucks because that kind of spurred on the comeback, I suppose. Because we really needed something at that point, and we just didn't. The moment we got it, it got taken away, and it's here we go then.
It would have been game over if they hadn't got the penalty for that. Essentially, it's just one of those things. You know, he's not at fault for it, but they have to flag it in the modern day.
It's just the rules.
10 years ago, they wouldn't care. That'll be it. But
I think was it that drive that was it? Was it like 60 yards of penalties or something like that, or maybe even more? I think that drive.
Yeah, there was one or two, wasn't there?
It was.
It felt like
a nightmare start to finish because it was actually a good kick from our punter, and then they ended up getting 20 yards on top, and it was just like.
They were instantly in the red zone, weren't they?
Yeah.
Just so like literally 30 seconds, and they were like, "Oh, here we go again." But
I think an underrated part of this season, since the start of the season, and certainly in the first 3 quarters of yesterday's game, was just how few penalties we've given up. We've gotten really good at just not when it looked like we were giving up a penalty every other play in week 1 versus was it 1 for 10 yards. Through the first 3.5 quarters yesterday, just for them all to come at once kind of sucks, but that's a really positive sign and a sign that the coach and staff are getting through to the players at least. Something to build on, I suppose. Just don't really want that or pass interference. If we can get rid of those two, we'll see where we go. But
yeah, and going back to playing disciplined football too, not very many turnovers. Obviously, the Mike Davis almost turnover yesterday would have probably put me in the hospital. But other than that, I mean, a lot of mistake-free football. Matt Ryan, he's got one in it. Well, I actually didn't get to watch Carolina last week. I was on the road, but I mean, not very many interceptions, not a ton of fumbles in the games that they are winning, and I think that's a very obvious correlation. Just hanging on to the football. And the offense is good enough to where they're going to score. Like, they'll get in the end zone. They can put up a decent amount of points to give them a chance.
Well, we've got 100% red zone efficiency this year. Like, every time we get to the 20-yard line, we're scoring some points, which is, that's a league best at this point. So just as long as we do that, we're golden. Not saying, obviously, that's easier said than done. But put yourself in that position, and we'll be okay.
Yeah.
So I don't quite know what okay means this year, but yeah.
That drive before halftime by Matt Ryan was something else, really. It was just part of the game that was unreal. We know what he can do. Getting his his overall stats. I think he's got a completion of 70%, which is very high, considering the wide receivers we sort of have as well, and the number of people he's got to be throwing to, like 5 or 6 every game. I think his stats are very good considering what he's got, and it's. A lot of people said as soon as a new scheme comes in place, he has a bit of an off year, and I know we're only halfway through, but this year I think he's sort of firing on all cylinders, and that's without weapons sort of like obviously Ridley's not been there for the last few games, and even before that he wasn't up to what we know he can do. You've got Pitts, who's obviously a rookie. You've got a few veterans coming in that also new to the playbook, and I think he's been firing on all cylinders, to be fair.
Well, I think you can see that from the start of the game yesterday. You seen straight away as soon as we got a few positive plays, it was up tempo straight away, and you can see that's what Matt Ryan's comfortable with, especially that sort of 2-minute offense. Not even no huddle, just organize. You see him on the field; he's organising everyone straight away. You even tell him if you can't hear it, you'll see him speak to the defenders. Well, not the defenders, his teammates, and then he's basically organised it straight away. Boom, play's gone, and then if it's positive, then just keep the ball rolling. I mean, that's what he's been known for as long as I've been supporting anyway. Just that kind of up tempo, keep the game going, and once you've got, especially at that kind of level as well, you've got that. They don't allow the defence to rotate off. I mean, it keeps defenders in a base coverage as well. So then it means that you can get at them better. It's more simple schemes that they're going to have to run. So then it's when it breaks down, that's when you kind of see the offence kind of starting a wee bit. But once the ball's rolling, it's very hard to stop because he knows how to. He's very, very clever in terms of that.
I wonder if I wonder if that sort of getting things up tempo and keeping the same players on the field, both on our side of the ball and the opposition side of the ball, is why we're seeing the breakout season from the 30-year-old Cordarrelle Patterson. The fact that he can just line up anywhere, and defenses have kind of got to stay in a standard set, and they just don't know how to properly deal with him. Obviously, it helps that he's got a really good quarterback, and Arthur Smith does know what he's doing most of the time. But having that sort of the tired defense, 2 or 3 players not really knowing who's supposed to be picking up who, is why we're seeing Cordarrelle Patterson put up the best numbers he's ever put up. And that will also help everybody else. Tajay Sharp and the like will get open as a result. So that's something that we've been asking for a lot since year 3 or 4 of Matt Ryan's career. Just like, can we just go into a no huddle offense? Just keep it going constantly, because that's just what he does. And it's good to see that they've kind of picked up on it somewhat.
Yeah, that's what would always drive me up the wall with Dirk Cutter. We had the lowest rate of pre-snap motion in the entire NFL, and now these guys are playing together and they're playing in Arthur Smith's offense and they're in the system. You talk about calling plays at the line, and when you're not too familiar with the system, you hear that, and then you got to say, all right, wait, what is this? What is this? And you have to process and you have to think. Now it's just like, all right, we got it. Like, this is what this is. I'm doing this, and here's the coverage, here's the set. All right, go. And I think when you're not taking those seconds to process, you're not giving the other team time to catch a breath, time to adjust. You're not seeing the false starts, the delay of games, things like that. And I think it's just about everybody gelling and being more cohesive.
Yeah.
I mean, you can naturally see between last year and this year, Matt Ryan just looks so much more comfortable in the pocket. And, last year he was skittish, not knowing what to do. And, you got to give credit to the new regime in getting him to work the way he is. I mean, it feels like he's rolled back to 4 or 5 years ago. When we were challenging for playoffs, like we we're in a playoff position right now. It's who would have thought that halfway through the season? Let's be honest. Tempered expectations at the start of the year. Who knows what might happen. I'm just happy this year that it's been competitive. You can see the progress from the first couple of games where it was ugly. Let's be honest. The progress. I mean, it's nice to see. It's refreshing. It's frustrating. Like last week's game was probably the only time this season that we've gone on a downturn on a week-to-week basis. If we carry on the upward spiral, it's just, who knows?
No, definitely. I think we know what their defense is like as well. Their defense is a good defense, and we've put 27 points against them, allowed 2 sacks, and that was only in the last. I mean, they were back-to-back sacks, I think, as well. So another shout out to the O-line for that. Like I've said, if we keep the 5 O-line together, they will improve, and they have done. I think Willow mentioned the penalties as well. I don't think the O-lines give. I don't think they give a penalty yesterday. They might have given 1, if that. But the first few weeks, like Paul was saying, I think it was like 5 or 6 penalties every game, and that was just the O-line at times, and it was just like, this is like a car crash. But obviously playing together, allowing 2 sacks against a very top defense is good, and giving Matt Ryan time. Like how many times does he get time throughout the season? But we actually give him time, and that's obviously all we can ask from him.
For all the positives I was going to say, for all the positives in the past game, the run game just needs to. It's kind of non-existent, right? I've said that a few times about a bunch of things, but like it's Mike Davis who's picking up maybe a yard if you're lucky. It's Cordarrelle Patterson trying to do 4 jobs at once, and that's just and Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's our best running back at the moment, and it's we need to do something about that because it's been bad for a while. But it was really bad yesterday, and that is part of the reason why you can never feel too comfortable, regardless of the lead. It's because you just can't run down the clock if you're being forced to throw it. Like they were when they tried to run it, the stuff behind the line of scrimmage. It's just kind of, can we do something about that? I don't know what you do, but can we please just do something about that? Because I can't do that anymore. The hardest yard that anyone's ever got. It all counts the same in my fantasy team.
Mike Davis came from Carolina, and he had a really, really good season. And I think their O-line is sort of semi-comparable to ours. So theoretically, he should be doing a similar job. But it just seems like he's not.
I think
there's no options behind him and Patterson.
It's partly on him, but then it is like the O-line as well. Like you've got to create the gap, you've got to create the space, and I think Patterson obviously he does break through slightly better than Davis. I think everyone knows that, but I think the O-line, because it's sort of 2 jobs. Obviously, you protect the quarterback, but you also create the gaps for the running backs, and they've done better creating. Well, protection for Matt Ryan. Maybe we might see a bit more in that couple of weeks. If they're getting, obviously, if they're working better together, you might see them work better overall in the next couple of weeks with the run game. Maybe that's something they might bring in a bit more. If they've settled with protecting Matt, obviously, a lot better than the first few games with penalties here, Matt getting sacked, etc. But you agree, I think the run game, if we had a run game, then I think it was it the first quarter against the Eagles? Everyone's like, "Oh my God, run game's here!" And then since then, it's got worse and worse. But I think hopefully we might see 9 games left. You might see it improve, but one of them for me.
I just don't like the fact that we've only got 2 running backs in the squad. Like every week it's the 2 that are active, and even though we've got Wayne Gallman that's inactive, seems to be every week now. But there's Arthur Smith kind of wants to for some reason keep trying Felipe Franks as Superman.
Just don't do that. It doesn't work.
I mean, we've already got Josh Rosen on the bench, and then you've got a third quarterback, which is totally unnecessary. So I don't understand why we don't make him inactive and bring in possibly, I don't know, another receiver or tight end, or even Wayne Gallman to kind of change it up a bit, especially because Wayne Gallman, he can be good, but it's another dimension of the game because he's a receiving back as well, so it just adds something different. But hey ho, I don't think we've seen the last of Felipe Franks yet.
There's going to be one play where it just goes off, and then he's going to be on the sideline. Arthur Smith, I told you. The game's 5 yards. It's like incredible.
He played during the preseason, man, with that 50-yard scramble. That was his one for the year. He wasted it.
It'd be one of them, like what he said, that if he gets that touchdown and if this play works, it'd be Twitter will absolutely explode. And Matt Smith would probably come out and be like, I knew that was going to happen. I was just waiting for it, but we'll see from there. But I agree. Like when Goldman's came in, I think he's hardly had any snaps, but he's a bit of a different running back to the other two. I think he's a bit of a different size as well. So why have we got 3 quarterbacks on the bench? But
yeah.
I'm a little biased because he is my friend, at least on the Twitter world. But Ito Smith, I really don't know why they cut him. I thought we should have hung on to Ito. I know he's not great in pass protection, but he is that quicker change of pace back. And as quick as Cordero is, he is a bigger guy. But Ito is your more, he's a smaller back, a little more agile. I would have liked to have seen if they could do anything with him in the pass game. But, I'm not the coach. I'm not evaluating him. But would have loved to have at least kept Ito, but I definitely agree. I mean, you have Wayne Gallman. He looked pretty good. Was it Washington or maybe the Giants? It was one or the other, but he looked pretty good.
The Giants, I think.
Yeah.
Is Ito Smith on a roster? And
he got to Arizona on their practice squad, and then he got to Minnesota on their practice squad. But I think he's a free agent. Actually, I'll look.
Go for it.
He'll be the next one that ends up in Baltimore because they're just getting through him at the moment. It'll be the one. That'll be the next one for the next few weeks.
Oh gosh!
All right, one thing I'm going to mention is Matty Wheels, his scramble to sort of take the piss got like 4 yards. And holy shit, that guy can move, kind of. But it was against the player. I can't remember who was it against. It
was Demario Davis. He broke him off.
It was. We put it on our Twitter and it's gone everywhere. But what a great watch. But like Willow said, he's our best running back. It's simple. Honestly, he got another rushing touchdown as well, which obviously great to see.
3 rushing downs, and he picked up positive yards on all of them, and that's just like he's the best now. Why don't we have Felipe Franks under center and Matt Ryan in the backfield and see what happens?
Oh goodness.
Anything else they want to speak about? Obviously,
there was a thing in the comments about signing Odell. I wouldn't want him anywhere near this team.
I mean, look at how the Browns were yesterday without him. I mean, they smashed the Bengals. Yeah. It seems like they've got harmony now there, and you look behind the scenes, he's gone. It's not a coincidence, I don't think.
I don't think you would reach. Does it go off last week's or would it go off this week's rankings anyway?
I'm not sure.
But I don't think he would drop to us. I think it was 11th last week. Now we're 19th. I think there'll be definitely other teams picking him up. It'll probably end up in the Lions and
he'll end up with the
Patriots. I'll be the sane one. We should absolutely try and get Odell Beckham Jr. On the basis that he is 100% better than anyone else we've got at the wide receiver position. It just makes so much. Even the only way it doesn't make sense is if you're counting pennies, which is what we're doing at the moment, which is why we won't go for him. But he got angry. He got pretty angry at Cleveland because he wasn't getting the ball, and it's kind of like he would be one of 3 targets, and he will get his target share, and he will catch the ball, and he'll make plays, He's not as good as he was when he sort of left New York, but he's really good. And he would instantly improve our receiving group, regardless
Matt
of.
Ryan would keep him in check.
Matt Ryan is a leader of men. He would absolutely keep him in check.
Did anyone notice
Sign
how
him.
Michael's ball?
Kamara stands, I guess, first down wheel.
Yeah, I did see Kamara on his own and no one there.
Yeah.
Did we only have 10 guys on? Was that what that was? I remember it happening.
He didn't even move off the line of scrimmage. He just put his hand up and then got the ball and ran forward. But that's not great. I think they were maybe up tempo at that point.
I think that's one thing we sort of did. Obviously, I expected Kamara to easily get over 100 yards, or even on the run game, because our run defense was sort of abysmal at certain parts of the game. Got down the field easy. I expected him easily to get over 100, and obviously ended up on 50. So,
but they improved, didn't they? Because those first 2 or 3 drives, it was Ingram and Kamara were picking up about 15 yards a carry, and then towards the end of the game, we're stopping runs on the 2-point conversion. So it's just kind of like we genuinely improved in the run game, and that was probably the reason why we were able to get out to the lead that we were. They just had to rely on the passing primate Trevor Siemian and him targeting AJ Terrell for whatever reason. They did a really good job in the run defense towards from the first quarter on. I'd prefer it if it was that for the entire game, but we move kind of thing. We're on to the next one.
Them 2-point conversions, obviously massive part of the game. So you stop 2 of them. As soon as you did it, you think, I was just like, they're going to score. Like they've scored 21 points in this. They're going to walk it in, but even when they did, I didn't really have any belief. I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, they've not got it, whatever. And then obviously, we know what happened next.
I say they stepped up when they needed to on those 2 plays, and that's the difference in the game again. It's the fine margins I mentioned before. You put, they put one of those in. This, okay, we might have had a chance for a touchdown at the end because it was would have been a 3-point game, but we only needed the field goal. That's the difference.
I think the D-line played well. They realised it was going to be one of those. They're going to try and shove it down our throats. And I think the only sort of issue was Marlon Davidson being caught offside or false starting. That was the only sort of issue I saw with it.
Guys, I do have to run to class. I appreciate y'all having me on as always. And I will talk to you guys soon. I appreciate it again.
Cheers for coming on. See you later.
Take care.
We'll wrap it up in about 5-10 minutes. One thing I want to say is Smith, obviously being a new head coach, everyone's giving him stick for his play calls. I fucking ripped him a new one yesterday. I'm deserving, but like we said in the chat, he's learning in it, and there's definitely a lot of positives to take from it. And I think his clock management is that's one big positive for me, that he's pretty good with the clock management compared to last year where we literally blowing leads, but it was the way that the clock management was awful, taking time out when we didn't need to. I think this year that's a massive part of the game, and he's done very well with that.
Was that one last year where we scored a touchdown when we were trying to not score a touchdown? We knew that we were going to lose from that point forward. It's like we don't really have that anymore. The game was against Miami, where it was another one that came down to the field goal. It was just kind of like we're in scoring range, and Miami want us to score because they're just going to tear us apart, but we're not, and they've kind of recognized where we've faltered over the last few years, and I appreciate that they are making attempts to rectify those mistakes from the past few years. Obviously they've got to go through their own mistakes, and they're always going to make mistakes, but I think by and large Arthur Smith's done a pretty decent job this year so far. There is so much scope to improve, but that's more so a compliment, I think, than you've still got ways to go. It's just kind of like you're doing really well, but also you can be so much better. And I'm really excited to see where that goes in the next couple of years.
It
You
did.
can tell my boys.
It did
Go on.
feel like last season it was like trying to sometimes hit square pegs in round holes, and this year I think he's putting the right players out for the right situations, and it's not just going for always going for Calvin Ridley, always going for Pitts. It's whoever's open will get the ball.
But there are some frustrating ones still. Like Cameron's already said about Superman, do it all. Felipe Franks, best player on the team by a mile. But it's kind of on those critical second downs, third downs, when the game is kind of on the line and you kind of know that they're going to lose if they don't get a first down. Having Kyle Pitts on the sideline, having Cordarrelle Patterson on the sideline, kind of. I go back to that game against Washington and how they handed the ball to Mike Davis twice and then tried to do a pass to Calvin Ridley. It's like that's not working, and there's still some things that they need to iron out. But I do believe that they will. I believe more so that they will iron it out here than I did with Dan Quinn and his ability to iron it out. That just never came, which sucks. But
another positive from me is like the London game that we all attended. You look to that in the second half and think we're literally going to blow a lead in front of my own eyes today. Like, what the fuck? But we didn't, and yesterday was like an 18-point lead, and obviously a few things with that drive, obviously the 60-odd point penalties or whatever, 60-yard penalties, etc. didn't help, but. That's what, like Paul was saying, it's the mentality of we're getting over certain things. I'm not saying it's going to go and we're never going to blow a lead again, because we obviously will. Like, that's what we do. But it is certain things like that what it is good to see. The Panthers last week, that was a game where I wasn't even that annoyed that we lost, because we were just shit all over. Like, we just weren't good.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, we had spells where we was really good and we deserved to win in the end. The Washington was obviously a frustrating one, but if someone said we're 4-4, 8 games into the season, and we're in the playoff spot, everyone would have laughed at us. So you take it.
You take it.
Of course, the biggest problem now is that we've got expectations. So if they don't beat Dallas, burn it all down again. But it's like we've got a really tough pair of games. Like we've got Dallas away and then New England on a short week. So it's kind of like it feels like the pivotal point in our season. If we can come out of both of those games if we can come away with that and having not lost both of them, I think that's a pretty positive place to be.
I agree. If we can get one out of those two, then I'd be happy going forward. If we get both of them, brilliant. But as long as we get one, I can be happy that we can compete at the end of the season, and anything can happen.
We've just got to remember there are some really bad teams in this conference.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned before a couple of weeks ago when I messaged in, I said sort of like there's 4 or 5 teams which you can just say they're in the playoffs, and there's 2 spaces up for grabs, essentially. And someone's got to take those spots. And why not us?
I do wonder if New Orleans are now one of those teams where you are they nailed on for the playoffs at this point if they're having to play, because they didn't sign I know that they tried to trade for Bridgewater, but they didn't sign a quarterback. They're rolling with Simeon and Hill for the rest of the season. Are they going to win enough games to get in now?
They're in the same boat as us. Let's be honest. They're not a shoo-in at the minute. Unless something drastically changes.
It's like they're a one-person team.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if a team with 8 and 9 at the end of the season got the last spot. I don't think that would surprise. I think that happened last year with Chicago Bears got the 8 and 8, but they got in.
I think they got 9 and 7 and in. I think.
Or did they get 9 and 7? But I wouldn't be surprised if a team 9. I think if we hit 9 wins, or whatever team hits 9 wins, I think you're getting it personally.
That might be the threshold this year, because it's a weak conference.
Yes, definitely. If you look at the AFC, there's a team. I think can't remember what division it is. I think everyone's on positive wins.
AFC West, all of them got 5 wins, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, something like that. And you think
Nuts.
like if we was on that side, we'd be no chance. But I said if you go into December and you've still got a chance of hitting the playoffs, when was the last time that happened? 3-4 years ago. So it makes the games more exciting, doesn't it? I don't know how many games we've got before December. 1, 2. Still got another 3 games. So even if you went in 6 and 7 by then, no, it wouldn't be that, would it? Bloody hell, what we're making up here.
It is nice though. It is nice to be sort of after Halloween and still relevant. Like that's a novelty that I took for granted for several years. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm not trying not to get too far ahead of myself because every time I do that, it just blows up in my face, and we're going to get rolled this Sunday, so that's going to be fun. So.
The only positive is we're playing. Is the Patriots away as well?
Patriots at home. Yeah.
Well, it's just probably bad because I think we were better away from home. Like I know it was in London, but it's basically an away game.
It's because they can't play in front of no fans. And Atlanta has no fans.
It's silent stadiums, but as soon as you play at home,
it's bad when you look at it at home and you're like, there's so many available. See, it's like watching, like you see Miami Stadium and that's basically empty.
I should get us all tickets and ship us over every week. That'd be nice.
What's stopping them?
Might get expensive on the old flights, mind you. Yeah.
Depends if they pay or not.
All expenses.
Well, going into the Cowboys game, obviously, Dan Quinn, defense. Anyone got any takes of? I think like you said, if we come out 1-1 after the next 2 games, everyone would take that because obviously it puts us still at a point. Is this gone?
So I was about to say yesterday's game against the Broncos should be the blueprint for us moving forward in terms of how we try to handle the Cowboys. The problem is the Broncos have 2 really good running backs and we don't have half a good running back, so that would be difficult. But one thing that seems to be forgotten in everything is that we had like a 25-point lead or something stupid against them last year. And we blew it. And if we got in that position again this year, I don't doubt that we would blow it. But we were in that position. We scored loads of points, albeit we had Jones and Ridley playing. But we can score points against them, and we know that we can score points against them. And that's all we've got to do. We just got to keep scoring points. And Dan Quinn's defense is weird because it's not actually that good, but it's very opportunistic. So if we can just play safe football the way that we have been, we can probably nullify them. And then it's just down to whether or not we can keep Prescott and his arsenal of receivers quiet and Elliott and Pollard quiet on the ground. It's a closer game than I think people are predicting. I think we're like 9 points. I think they're favourites by about 9 points, which is pretty large.
Wow.
But it's closer than people think, I think.
I'd take us to cover that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be. Obviously, the result yesterday, obviously the Broncos beating them, obviously has put that further down, but proves they are beatable. I know they have, like you said, better running backs, but we have a better quarterback, so obviously I think that could work out in our favour as well. We know they do concede points. Obviously, Dan Quinn's, we know they fucking concede points, so we'll know. Obviously, they've done the research, they've done all the tactics, etc. But I think it's definitely a team where we could beat. And I don't know what record they're on, but I don't think they're as good.
I think
Are they as good as the record shows?
Very good, yeah.
I don't think they are, but I think they are. They're nailed on to getting the playoffs because obviously their division is absolutely trash.
Yeah,
but it's one of them games where it's going to be an exciting one either way.
They're a team that are built to get involved in a shootout because that offense is ridiculous. Like even it was quiet yesterday, and they had turnovers themselves, but just like across the board, they have stellar players. Like their receiving core is what if we just had one of their receivers. It will just be like, you're our best player. We will give you the ball all the time. And it's just kind of, if we can just find a way to keep, it's not going to happen, but if we can just find a way to keep two of those players quiet, we stand a chance. I don't know. I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling all right about it. I think we're going to be okay. We might not win, but I don't think it'll be embarrassing. And that's what you got to strive for.
I know we can score points, so I think that's the thing. I think that's what we proved throughout the season, apart from obviously the Panthers game. We know we can score at least 25 points in a game, which is going to make you competitive every game, more or less. I think the Bucks game was that was a freak ending, obviously conceding that many points, with 2 pick sixes at the end. But I don't think that weren't on the offense overall, or if it weren't on the defense. So I think overall it'll be a close game, but I'm not going to do a prediction on it anyway.
We just need to clone Grady Jarrett all along the defensive line.
They've got him playing everywhere now. They've started playing him outside, and it's just
he looked good on the outside though, better than Dante Fowler.
Well, let's be fair. So it's just kind of like he's proven to be a pretty versatile piece. Can we just get one player to play alongside him? Like my mate Marlon Davidson, can you show up for more than 2 plays? That'd be nice. Like,
Maybe he's best mate now.
No, he doesn't like me, so it's feelings mutual.
No, we kind of need that. I mean, this is looking way ahead into the draft if we get a good position or that. But we need someone. I mean, Grady Jarrett's unbelievable and everything, but he's not that kind of. He doesn't fit that kind of scheme that we run, where we've got the linebackers and that are like fast, and they're not very, they're not run stoppers. They're that kind of new style of linebacker that's designed to cover the pass and also go sideline to sideline.
What, like TJ Watt?
Nah. So it's that kind of, I don't know, like we need that just run stuff of a D tackle, like for example in the draft that Jordan Davis, and he's like 6'6", 330 pounds. I mean, that's going to be hard to move, especially when you watch his film. He eats up so much space. I mean, probably literally and figuratively just covers 2 gaps, and if you have him along with Grady Jarrett, then you're halfway there, and then obviously need a good pass rush, but we're used to that not having that.
Right, Paul wants us to finish because his missus is.
It's got a message, so my belly's calling me.
No, that's fine. We'll wrap up in a minute anyway. But no, going into the game, it's going to be a bit of a shootout. If we score over 25 points, like I said, it should be doable. Going to the draft quickly, I don't think would be. A lot of people said the quarterback situation is in the next draft isn't top anyway.
Dire,
So I don't think we're going quarterback route. It's got to be defensive for me, and hopefully, most of the Georgia team will be going in the first fucking round anyway. So there's quite a few players available, but ending this now on a massive win against the Saints, which was fucking great. So thanks for coming on, guys. Everyone watching, appreciate you watching, etc. And fuck the Saints.
Damn right.